All right. Well, you guys know how we do this. This is Michelle Guines, and this is the Reimagine You Lab podcast. And you just never know who I'm going to be sitting across the table from or across the states from. And today, I've got one of the best, the guru. This is the thought leader extraordinary around things such as community outreach. I mean, when you start talking about what's the community doing, what's the community saying, I think Sean Kirkwood, don't y'all? Hey, Sean Kirkwood, how you doing today, bro? How are you?
I am doing well, blessed. Michelle, glad to be on today. Absolutely.
I am so glad that you said yes to the invitation, and I am so glad that you're here. You know, Sean, I tell you, whenever I have the opportunity to say hey to anybody that I think is extraordinary, I am just grateful that you even had time and the energy, and even said that this was even worth your time to come and drop by the lab today. So I'm so glad that you are here. Listen, so, I'm not going to, we're not going to beat around no bushes or talk or take too long getting in. You know how I do. Absolutely. So tell me, we talking about the subject of potential and possibilities. And I was just telling you that I saw a post, I caught one of your posts that you had this past week. And it was a young lady. I mean, she couldn't have been, I don't know what grade she was in. What was it?
Yeah.
Elementary school. I mean, like in little elementary school, I want to say kindergarten, first grade. I mean, because she had on like a graduation outfit, but it looked like she was little, but she had her back straight. She had her leg crossed. She had her little notebook sitting up, like ready to
she was ready.
The world, right?
Yeah.
And I can't remember exactly what the post said, but she looked like she was ready to take on whatever was coming her way. And so with the conversation of potential and possibility, Sean, at that age, looking at that young girl, and then thinking about Sean at that age, what were you thinking about as far as possibilities? What were you thinking?
Yeah. So that particular post, and it was a photo. So if you guys haven't seen it, check it out.
Yeah. But it was on LinkedIn. I saw it on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it was on LinkedIn. So if you guys are on LinkedIn, I'm heavy on LinkedIn. So you guys jump in and add me as a follower, add me as somebody.
Yeah,
I can follow
check him
you
out
as well too, because we all learn from each other. But this particular photo, it spoke to me because it was a young lady, and Michelle, I don't know about your children. In fact, I probably do a little bit, but back in my day, I've been in school seems like my whole life, and I've probably graduated 3 times. Well, my children, they've probably graduated like 15 times by the time they turn 15. So they're graduating all the time. And I'm always there for it because, we should be celebrating and, giving our children, all the kudos and all those things, because we know the world can be harsh. But in this particular photo, it was a young lady, and she just looked astute. She looked like she was going to take the world up. There she is with her little good posture, have no idea who this young lady is, but it spoke volumes to me because she looked like a little boss. She looked like she was paying attention. She looked like, she checked all of the boxes that we hope for in adults, but she was doing it as a child. And we know, at that age, whatever the age, I'm thinking probably between 4 and 7 or 8 years old. And so Sean at that age, as we're doing right now, I was a talker at that age. I was cleaning up my father's house. My father, we're moving him to a retirement home, and that's always a task. But in doing that, we're going through old stuff and files. And I come up upon a file that my mom had saved for me with all my old report cards. That's another whole conversation. But but the comments around that were always, I'm talking about consistently. Sean is very creative. Sean is very imaginative. Sean talks a lot. Sean is and I'm talking about for each grade. So me sitting down, me paying attention, me doing all those things, it was hit and miss because my mind was all over the place. And I wanted to do just like we're doing now. I wanted to converse. Even when the teacher said, hey, everybody be quiet, I probably was thinking about another comment. So with that being said, this young lady, for her to be sitting in that moment, because all we have is that moment, picture's worth 1,000 words, but that picture spoke to me that this little young lady can have whatever she puts her mind and her great posture towards in life, she can have
Yeah.
it. And I think that's what we should all be pushing ourselves, our children, and anybody we come in contact with, is that you can achieve it if you put your mind to it and you go after it. Who are we or anybody else to say no?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree. I know what you're talking about though, on those report cards when they have that little sentence say, yeah, I was a talker too. I remember I had a teacher, Mr. Woods, Coach Woods, I was in high school. I think I was a freshman. And I remember Coach Woods called me busybody. As a matter of fact, I think I ended up getting a sweatshirt. Remember when the Landon, you can get like some, and I had Miss Busybody on it. I was like, shouldn't even be identifying with this right now. But, but I remember those report cards and being a talker. And so I'm with you. But you know what? I think that it's important that we encourage and kind of hone and harness in on some of those things that we do, those qualities and stuff that we see, in our children and those who are around us, and one thing you said, as you started to answer that question for me, was you said that we look for these things in adults, but to see it in a child is like, wow, this girl's going to be able to go exceedingly far. Absolutely. So let's have that adults conversation, because one of the things that even made me have or want to do this podcast and some of the stuff that I'm doing now is because I meet so many adults who think that they have exhausted, Sean, the possibilities. And they have gotten in places and have gotten, for lack of a better term, stuck. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're not stuck unless you think that you're stuck. You just have to reimagine. So when you're dealing with people, and I like a lot of the posts and stuff that I see you doing and things that you're saying, and I imagine that when you're talking to people, you're a huge encouragement. When I think about the things that work and stuff you've done with the community and such, talk to me about how you are sharing or what you're seeing with some of the adults that you talk to in the spaces and stuff that you're in. How are you seeing adults, living in their potential and their possibilities? What does that look like from your vantage point? Are you seeing people where they just kind of standing still, or are you seeing people really thriving and really pushing forward? Like we see the influencers on Instagram is doing stuff, but I'm talking about the people in our regular everyday set, because everybody in my everyday set don't look like the influencers that I see on IG.
Absolutely. That's a good question. When I make a post, sometimes I'm speaking to myself. I'm speaking to a portion of me that maybe needs that at that moment. So as I mentioned, that young lady having that great posture, looking like she could take on the world, that's maybe speaking to me. So that's where some of my posts come from. And so in the everyday, just being out and about, and even going back to, some of the comments some of my teachers made about Sean being talkative, maybe Michelle being busybody, while that may have been a negative connotation, in fact, it was. Maybe it was, because I know I got in trouble plenty of times for my mouth. It's also a blessing as well, because I like to be around folks. I like to know. I get inspired from all different walks of life. Yeah. And so to answer your question about adults, the adults that I see, I don't go out and seek it. I strike up conversations with strangers all the time. My wife is like, hey, I'm just trying to go in and out of the store while we're here, extra 20 minutes, all of these different things. But inspiration can come from anywhere. Someone could say something that I chew on for a year even. So what I see in adults is that I think that sometimes they lose their childlike selves. They're so entwined in their work or their work titles or paying the bills. We all have to pay bills, but I don't ever want that to be just who I am. I mean, as I traverse through life, I don't ever want to just early on, you introduced me and I thank you for that wonderful introduction, but it's always hard for me, anytime I'm blessed to be able to speak to people, it's always hard for me to say, how do you want to be addressed or anything? Because, it depends on what day it is. I mean, it really does. It depends on what day it is. And so I get inspired by people who are just going about their regular lives. Who maybe I catch them off guard. I don't catch them in the office. I don't catch them at a meeting. We have plenty of meetings, but just in real life, I catch them at the park. I catch them playing with their children, and as I have my children at a park. So those are the things that I get inspired by. But I think, kind of speaking to your point about sometimes people are stuck in a rut. I think we all, sometimes we get stuck in a rut. There's a phrase that I've coined, and actually, a work that I'm working on, a book that I'm working on, it's called outboxing. And the premise behind outboxing is that thinking outside the box, living outside of your box. And sometimes we put ourselves in our own box. Not to sound, horrible, but we put ourselves in a box, and sometimes it's like, this is who I am, so you can't see me outside of my box because my box is my comfort zone. So outboxing challenges folks to live beyond their box, to step outside, and
I love it.
That's what I want to challenge folks to do. I think that's kind of what I'm here to do, but that challenge also goes to me as well, too. I always look for people who are challenging me to live outside of my box.
Okay, I consider this your challenge from Michelle Gaines. Sean? All right, I'm looking forward to seeing a outline of the outboxing book by August of 2023. Okay.
On his way. It's on his way. I promise you.
No, I love the title though, and that's real. That's real talk, because you know what? And when you say, I love that you say that, you know what, hey, I get inspired by different things and different people in different areas and arenas, anything can inspire me. And I think that that's so true. And the whole concept of outboxing, I think you've got something there, because most of the time it's almost like, people don't come outside of their box, like we like to say, let's get outside of the box. But most of the time, people don't come outside of the box because there's a little bit of fear of, what do you think? What will other people think about me outside of this box? Tara and I was talking about that yesterday. We had a good conversation about that, and truth of it is that most people, because they so worried about what people are going to think about them outside of their box, they ain't even really caring about you outside of your box.
Because our identity, most times our identity is in that box. Who we are, who we would like to be inside this box. And so, if I don't have my box, it's like, I don't know if you live in this world, but I imagine you do, because you're busy, you're out in the community. You leave and you don't have your phone. Like back in the day, I could remember probably 20 phone numbers. Now I'm just like, if I don't have my phone, I'm like, oh man, like who could I call? I don't know nobody's phone number. I don't know emails. I don't know any of these things. And so, there's comfort in those things that are comfortable. And I think our box is that way. So, if you don't mind me sharing this is something that I forcing myself to live outside of my box, because most people think outside of the box. There's a think outside the box meeting or a focus group or a think tank, but living outside of your box and living in those endless possibilities, that's the challenge. So last year, my baby girl and I had a kind of somewhat of a, what is it called, a bucket list of things that I wanted to do in life. But then also, I have all these wonderful things. I want to visit here, and I want to visit Egypt, and I want to visit all these different places. But there was also a fear list as well. These are things I never want to do. These are things I never want to check, because I'm scared to live outside of my box. So one thing, with the help of a good friend, she helped me put to bed one of my fears, and my fear was snakes. So last year, my friend, she's on the board of the Kansas City Zoo. She arranged for me to go into behind the scenes. Me and my daughter, we handled snakes, and we handled snakes from all over the world. And when I tell you, I probably smiled in pictures, but it was just to hide me from crying and probably screaming. But once I started getting educated and I started learning, and they told me how to hold it, you hold this one this way, and you stroke this one this way, and you do this, and the fear started to slowly but surely trickle away. And while I will say, like, I don't want to run up on a snake outside of the zoo, it put to bed some of those fears that I had that weren't even my fears. They were fears from other people. They were fears from my mom and my dad who said, don't mess with snakes, and snakes are this. So all I have to say is that I think thinking outside the box and thinking about possibilities is one thing, but to move and actually act in that, sometimes we need a gentle push, or we need someone to give us somewhat of a mandate or a challenge. So
no, you do need some activation around it. Yeah, that's absolutely true, because you know what, Sean, I love what you're talking about. And I hope that people are listening in and really tuning into this, because I really think that that's part of what you have to do in order to really move outside of boxes. Like I tell people, boxes really don't exist. Like, there's not really a box in your head. There's not really a box wrapped around you. That's a thought, like when I'm coaching people, I'm like, is whatever you think, if you think it's there, it's there, but it really is just what you think. It's a thought, so you have to really manage the way that you think. And so again, it is just how you determine it. So like, I love that you said maybe in a picture, I'm smiling. And that smile might be having a little uncomfortable with this thing right now, but but the more that you learned about it, the more that you kind of handled it and knew, how to handle each one, and you may handle each one differently and all that kind of stuff. Those fears began to wane, because, now I know what I'm doing. And when I know what I'm doing, I gain a more confidence with it, and the more confident I am, the less fear I have about it. And, hey, I can do this, right? Absolutely. I can do hard things. I can do things that I was once fearful of. I now don't have that fear. That does not bother me. So I love that. I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. One of the things that I had asked you was, how do you define your possibilities in life? And if you have children, is it the same for them as it is for you? So I love that your daughter, you said that your daughter went with you. Was she afraid of snakes too? Is that what made her go? Or does she like snakes and wanted to go as a support to you?
It's a little bit of a catch. So to answer your question, I don't think she had the same fear that I had. As I see you in a lab coat, she's got pictures. She wanted to be Doc McStuffin, and she wanted to be a veterinarian. But snakes was kind of one of those ones. She wasn't fearful, but she hadn't handled snakes. So this is a learning experience for her. But as she saw how fearful I was, she changed. She went from like, "Hey, Dad, we're going to learn about snakes together," to being very supportive. So I think I thank her for having that discernment, because Dad was shook. I'm not going to even joke. So that was great for her. So now she doesn't have to live like I live, in fear of the unknown, in fear of snakes, because Dad was scared, and then Grandma and Papa was scared of snakes, and going on and on. So this is one of those fears that's kind of put to bed with facts, with action and things of that nature. So I think that's kind of the give back, is that you want to make sure, you want to pass on good traits, and that's every parent's challenge. You want to pass on good traits, but there's certain stuff that it's a tough sell. So she did support though.
No, that's awesome. You know what? I think that's so good. Like there are things that we can do with our kids. How old is your daughter?
She's 12.
She's 12. I think it's so cool. Like now, like I think about like the stuff that I get to learn, like either with or from my kids. It's like when I think about like some of the possibilities now, like I'm like, man, some of the things that they were doing, like they're talking now about, like, you got this generation of young people now in the workplace that they're the digital age, right? Like Gen Z is now in the workplace. These are the kids that grew up with cell phones and was it Snapchat? Was that the first app that they had, that they kind of had? And they,
one of many,
like they had, so they're not afraid. They don't know what apps were. They knew how to, get on stuff and make it. I mean, like I've got a 3-year-old nephew that, he knows how to do stuff on phones that, like this is innate stuff to them.
Right.
And so when I think about like, us moving from cassette tapes to CDs to DVDs and Bluetooth and Blu-ray disc and all that kind of stuff, that's all they've ever known. It's like, So when I think about, what do you think of, when I think of possibilities now, I'm like, holy smoke, I don't know what the possibilities are going to be
Yeah.
moving forward. And it's
Yeah.
kind of exciting. Although I know people are like,
Mm.
AI's coming in and AI's going to take over the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
But I'm like, man, it's been a lot of great things that have come forward, and the
Mhm.
possibilities are endless.
Yeah, I think,
Endless.
what I embrace it.
Yeah.
Something I tell my team at work is that you can be on either side of history that you choose to be on. You can be on the
Mhm.
on
Good.
the looking forward part of history, or you can be on the left behind part of history. And I think by just natural aging, at some point in time, you start saying, well, I'm going to dress this way. I'm going to get this haircut. I'm going to change up. And at some point in time, we become our parents. You getting the same haircut for 25 years, or you doing the same, whatever it is. But I
Yeah.
just choose to, and I think it kind of goes back to me just being a naturally inquisitive child, is that I always
Mhm.
choose, like the possibilities. Like
Yeah.
it's cool. Like I know, like the safety part of it is going always going to be there. Like I can always reach my box. But what's on the other side of this? Or what's on the other side? And that's something I try to challenge my children with, is that
Mhm.
don't do things just because I do them or because your mom does it. Part of the
Mhm.
reason why I'm in the Kansas City area and I'm from St. Louis, only 4 hours away, but part of it is that, my siblings stayed in St. Louis, my parents in St. All of these different
Mhm.
things. So
Mhm.
even as a child, my mother, she challenged us all. I was the only one who took up this challenge. But one of the things that stories I stick to, and I've shared this with my children, my mom is from a small southern town, Bell City in southern Missouri. And
Mhm.
when my dad and her were dating, he asked my grandparents to marry her. And my grandmother, she loved my dad. The only caveat was that she's like, I'm here in this town because I want to be here. My daughter, Joyce, which is my mom, she was like, she hasn't been anywhere outside of here. So give her a year and then I'll give you my blessing. But I want her to be outside of this. So where did my mom go move? She went to from the smallest city to the biggest city
In
she
Missouri.
went to New York City. No, she went to New
Oh,
York
what
City.
did
And she
she?
went to New York City and she loved it. And my dad, being probably a typical man, he followed her right up to New York City and hated every minute of it. Just looked at the calendar like, I got a year and then I can marry you and things of that nature. All of that to say
Yeah.
that the conversations that we had, and I think it kind of goes back to how do I feel about
Mhm.
possibilities and things. It really depends on your perspective. My dad
Yep.
didn't like it, and he'll tell you 20 million stories about why he hated New York City when they lived in New York City. My mother would told me this, different stories like, hey, this is my first time seeing skyscrapers. This is my
Yeah.
first time seeing this. This is my first time seeing Dr. Martin Luther King walking down the street in New York
Yeah.
City. And I'm seeing all these things in real time. And she said it kind of expanded her mind. So that's what she said
Right.
for her children, is that, hey, don't settle here because we settle. Go explore and things of that nature. And that's my challenge for not only my children, but it's my challenge for anybody, is that be willing to explore, be willing to do what is
Yes.
not normal and see
Yes.
what sticks. You can always reach your box, but be willing to, maybe there's other compartments to your box that you didn't even know about. So
Right. No,
yeah.
I love it. I love that, Sean. I love that. I love that story your mom told,
Mhm.
like, and it is just a matter of perspective, like,
Mhm.
what are you looking at? Change the way you look at things, and things change the way they look. I love,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's so good. That's so good. So, Sean, you said something, and that I thought was profound. You said possibilities are endless, but living for your creator narrows the roads that travel to nothingness. You got to explain that a little further for us. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
the guru done went deep on me. Dog.
Yeah. Well, I think so. I'll say this, is that it kind of, let's go back to our technology
Yeah.
portion of our conversation. Technology, these children have more at their fingertips than anybody has had in the history of this planet at their fingertips.
Right. Literally.
And I can think about it. Just think about it in our time with similar ages, using maps to then, we really thought we was doing something we could use. What was it called? MapQuest. Like it's going to tell you where
Yes.
to turn. You got this piece of paper and you driving and turn left.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, this is so much better than the map. And now we know what phones can do. We could, hey Siri, tell me how to get from here to there. And we have all
Yes.
those different things and these satellites. with that being said, I guess kind of going back to what I wrote about the possibilities, but then the creator or whoever you believe in should help stir you towards away from those roles into nothingness. Because what I think can happen as well is that while you have all these endless possibilities via technology, via your mind, sometimes you can go on the road and you can be traveling and you could be from point A to point Z, but then you could be going, but then come to find out you're going in the wrong direction. So movement is not always good, especially when you're going in the wrong direction. So I think when you have a relationship, a faith-based relationship, I try my best to have a faith-based relationship. Nobody's relationship is perfect, but we're all striving towards the mark. I think it will help you not navigate towards places that you shouldn't be in.
Absolutely.
If you don't mind me sharing this, then on the vein of technology, but it is something that I think is, a part of me and the way that, I try to navigate through life. So I made my first official TikTok just yesterday. No, just on Friday. Made my first, and this is with edits and everything. So I feel really good about this little particular TikTok. It probably took me about 2 hours for something the kids do in about 2 minutes.
30 seconds. I got it.
With that being said, it was an actor, and he talks about how he was playing a role and he needed some meanness and some evilness to this particular role. And so he summoned the Prince of Darkness himself. I mean, it's clips all over about this particular actor, and he's just summoned. They're like, hey, I needed this particular energy for this role, so I summoned him. Hey, come on, right now. And he was calling the devil's name, and all of it to say, that's, red flag on top of red flag, probably the ultimate red flag for me personally. I think when it comes to nothingness is that, we have to be, we have to always be careful about what we do with our mind and our possibilities, because once again, we have the possibility to do great things in this world, but if you follow the wrong teachings or you follow the wrong mindsets,
absolutely,
you could have all those things that you want, and those things that you desire could be the very tools that are used to destroy you. So I think that's kind of the gift and the curse, like, technology and all these things. It's kind of like a Pandora's box. And once you open that box, you can't stuff the genie back in the bottle. So how about, let's make some informed decisions and then use those informed decisions to go after the life that you choose to go after. But we just have to be cognitive of those red flags and those things that people do. So
that's good. That's excellent, Sean. I think that's so key, because you're absolutely right. I mean, you can find yourself somewhere and you're asking the question, how did I get here? Why am I here? This is not where I intended to end up. And they're building prisons, mental health centers, places, hospitals, and different things to contain people, because something led them somewhere that they couldn't get back from. So they went a little further than they wanted to go. They stayed longer than they wanted to stay, doing something that they wasn't intending to do, and they couldn't get back. No, that's so good. That's so good. I'm gonna have to look at that. You'll have to send me the link to the TikTok.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there, Sean. There's a lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah.
You know what? One of the other things that I think about sometimes when we are having conversations, do you always wonder for people, how difficult, do you find it more difficult now to maximize potential, your own, now than you did maybe 10 years ago? When we're thinking about it's, even as far as we've come, hey, it's 2023 and technology is surging. We've got more information and such at our fingertips, but then it still seems like, man, I haven't necessarily, in some cases, maybe I haven't maximized everything that I wanted to do. Do you find it more difficult now to maximize the things that you want to do than maybe 10 years ago? Or do you kind of feel like, hey, I'm right now and it's easier, and I'm accessing, I'm utilizing the tools and the resources, the systems and processes that I see before me, and it's become easier?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back for me, it goes back to
Mhm.
kind of perspective and how you look at things. So, for instance, there's a certain financial guru, so to speak, that I follow and I've learned some good wisdom from. And and one of his messages is really encouraging younger folks to, like, basically, while you broke, you have nothing but time. So you can use your your time that
Yeah,
you have to, learn some tools that will help you not stay, in a condition where you
yeah.
don't have money. When you get, as you age, obviously, and prayerfully that you're learning some things, maybe you get paid a little bit more than you ever thought you would get paid. But then
Mhm.
but you're looking at things like, yeah, that pay is great. I wish I had this pay 20 years ago or something. And so now we're looking at it like, yeah, the pay is not, the pay is great, but I'm trying to maximize my time now.
Mhm.
So it's
Mhm.
all
Mhm.
perspective.
Mhm.
So I think,
Mhm.
to answer your
Mhm.
question, it really is like, I think it's easier now, but I
Mhm.
will say that when we talked about those paths of kind of the endless paths of possibilities, or
Mhm.
paths that end because of the choices that we made, it's like parenting, something I know you can speak to,
Yeah.
obviously much better than me, but being a professional working mom,
Yeah.
there was a time not too long ago where women were having to make choices like, hey,
Mhm.
you can be a mother, but your chances of promoting and your chances of working in this particular career are probably going to be limited because you've chosen this. And then obviously some women decided like, hey, I want to, maybe not start a family because I want to chase this particular. So
Mhm.
with that being said, I think what happens is no matter what side you chose,
Mhm.
you have now, at this point in time, you have the eyes of wisdom to kind of look back and say, hey, was that a great
Mhm.
decision? Was it not? We all are here in the space, this very moment.
Yeah.
Your listeners are in this very space, in this very moment. Hopefully they're listening to our conversation. Hopefully that they're gleaning some information that
Mhm.
will help them look back with eyes of wisdom to say, you know what, maybe it didn't look good then, but I'm here. I'm here. I'm alive. I'm healthy. Prayerfully,
Yeah.
I'm doing well. So that question is somewhat of a loaded question, but I
I
think,
know.
looking back, it's a good question. But I think looking back now, anybody could tell you this about me, and is that I'm a family man. I love my children. I love my wife, and family is very important to me. So even though I didn't make a sacrifice as a mother, carrying a child and things of that nature. As a father, there were certain opportunities that I had to, not be a part of. I wanted to travel. That was my big thing. I've always liked airports. I always thought about, like, and once again, going back to me being inquisitive. Why is this person
Mhm.
getting on this flight, or where are they going to? I bet they rich, or I bet you they got money. All these different things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I had the opportunity to do that, and I had to turn it down because I wanted to be present in my children's lives, and it was needed at that point in time. So to answer your
Yeah.
question, I think that now that I have wisdom and now that I can look back, I think
Mhm.
things are coming a lot easier for me now,
Mhm. Mhm.
because I did the things that I needed to do
Mhm.
when I needed to do them. And now that as my children are getting a little older and they're a little bit more independent, a lot more independent, most
Mhm.
times, I can now start to revisit, like, maybe I do want to revisit this particular dream that I kind of put on the wayside, or maybe they were just a whack dream. Maybe maybe I should have been there in the first place. So all of that to say is that I think it's a perspective, but I'm in a good space, and
Yeah.
I'm, I'm a kid at heart. So I still
Yeah.
think the world is a big
Is your
oyster.
oyster.
Yeah, we can explore it and do all these
Yeah.
great things with it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. I think it's easier now. I think the older we get, and even the older our children get, like,
Mhm.
you do get to continue to explore, and you use wisdom to choose, like some things that
Mhm.
you wanted to do at 25, that may have been out of reach or out
Yeah.
of the budget or
Mhm.
just, completely unrealistic at the time. At 50, I'm going to say, hey, now it's in the realm of possibility. You can do whatever you want to, but maybe you don't want to anymore. You know what I mean? That ain't even
Absolutely.
a desire anymore. But yeah, you do have that look back, it's kind of like,
Mhm.
okay, do I want to do that? Now, we were listening to, when we were in Kansas City last weekend
Mhm.
for the 50th wedding anniversary for Apostle Keith and Lisa Wesley. And we had a great time, and we were just listening to, like all of the stories and things of like, and so the message, the couple that shared on Sunday morning after that celebration, they were talking about it. They've been married 30 years. Brian and I are hitting 25 this year. And they were just talking about like the stuff, you get to a space, now like you've got the best credit, you've got disposable income. But when your kids are small and they in private school and like,
what's disposable income at that time?
Exactly. So, and it was funny because they left yesterday, or they left today to go to Dubai. Like that's where they're going for their anniversary. And we were like, man, that's crazy, because we're going to Dubai for our anniversary. And we were like, like just going places and doing things that at the time, like years ago, when we had kids in the house, like all the time, it just wasn't doable. But now, like sometimes it just takes a little time, takes a little, and you get to do it, and you can still do whatever you want to. So I think it's easier. We all get to explore the things that we choose to a little later in life. That's why you see all the retired people that they do whatever they want to. That's driving Cadillacs and nice top down with, they ain't got no hair for to blow out,
And I love to see it, Michelle. I literally, there's some people say, they say things like, oh, look at them and they need to act their age. And I'm like, what is that? Act your age. Because I'm like,
enjoy your life, whatever age you at.
Absolutely. So I love to see it. And I'm here for it every time I see someone dancing, every time I see someone, like you said, doing stuff that you would like. Initially you might be like, they ain't got no business doing it, but I wish I could do that. Or I can't wait till I could do that.
I can't wait till I can.
Yeah, absolutely. So I celebrate that. Absolutely.
Me too. Well, Sean, I always like to, before, I know it seems like the time just runs out on us and it goes so quickly, but before we shut down for the night, I want you to tell me, or tell our listeners, what would be if there was one thing that you would say to anybody that was listening in before we break, what would be your one piece of advice as you talk about potential and possibilities? What would be the one thing you want to leave people with?
I would say one thing is that try to find and speak to your child-like inner self. Try to be the person for yourself that you wish you would have had when you were a child. Maybe you were blessed to have that person who encouraged you and who pushed you out of your comfort zones. But maybe you have to be your own hero, maybe in your own story. You have to come and say, well, hey, after all these years, I never learned how to swim, so I can't wait to go swimming, or I want to go bungee jump, or whatever that wild imaginative thing is. Try to reconnect with that and do it unapologetically, because the haters are going to watch you whether you do it or don't. So you might as well give them a good show. So yeah.
I love it.
Connect with you. Yes.
Connect with you. I love it. Sean, thank you for coming on tonight. I appreciate it. It's always a blessing to sit and chat with you, my brother. Always appreciate chatting with you. All right, you guys, y'all know how we do. Thank you for tuning in to the Reimagine You Lab podcast with me, Michelle Gines. Make sure we drop a new episode every Friday night. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, share the show with anyone you know who you think could grab a nugget, something that they can get out of it that is going to make a difference in their life. Remember, we're just testing ideas. We're talking about stuff. We're changing thoughts and perspectives. And you can do that too, because we believe that you can reimagine you. All right, until next time, I will see you later.